والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين وبالقاسم محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى وقوله الحق وهو بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا أقسم بهذا البلد وأنت حل بهذا البلد ووالد وما ولد لقد خلقنا الإنسان في كبد صدق الله العلي العظيم. Another loud salawat, please. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. It is indeed an honor and pleasure to be with all of you once again after a short break of 7 years. And I don't know how many of you were here back then. I do recognize some faces from before. So alhamdulillah, seems like this community has grown, and we hope with the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it continues to grow, as I see the presence of youth, which is definitely encouraging element of any community that wants progress and that wants to move forward. So alhamdulillah, we see that over here, and that is definitely a positive sign that the elderly are recognizing their role, and at the same time they're grooming the next generation to take up the great work, the foundation that they have laid down. So we commend the elderly for a job well done, and we praise the youngsters for carrying out the duties from where they left off. So hopefully Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grants prosperity. He gives flourishing to this community, and it grows and becomes leaders as far as this ummah, especially in the Western countries such as America and other countries, and inshallah illuminates and brings the light to other societies and communities as well. With that said, obviously we are entering into the holy month of Muharram, known as Muharramul Haram. That ayat of Quran, inshallah, that I recited, and I will get on to the discussions that we will be having in the nights to come, that we see that indeed muhtaram, respected, and haram. Three of them are in sequence. One is out of sequence. One that is out of sequence is the month of Rajab. And then you have Dhiqad, Dhul-Hijj, and Muharram. And there was a reason why these 3 months in sequence were considered to be muhtaram, respected. Because one of the reasons was that people used to travel during the months of Dhul-Hijj to go perform Dhiqad, to go ahead and perform the Hajj in the month of Dhul-Hijj. And then after having performed this pilgrimage, they would return back home. And by the time they would be going back home, it would be the month of Muharram. To keep the sanctity and safety and security of these people intact, these 3 months were considered to be muhtaram, so that no bloodshed would take place. Nobody would trespass others, as it was a custom back in the day in Arabia. We see that that is one of the reasons why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in order to protect, because in these months, if one is to pick up the offense against other, there's indemnity, which is twice as much. And those Islamic countries in which there is Islamic law that prevails, they do enforce this law. We're starting this month, as we walk into the month of Muharram al-Haram. It is indeed a month of mourning, month of sorrow, month in which we commemorate the shahadat of our third Imam and his companions. It is a month which we look forward to. Every nation has a new year. There's a Gregorian New Year, there's a Chinese New Year, there's a Jewish New Year, and there are other New Years that I'm unaware of. And there's Islamic New Year. Every New Year seems like a time of celebration, a time of joy, or at least when what we look at the Gregorian New Year, when it begins, how it begins. That's a moment of happiness and joy and whatnot. And usually that's what people expect from the New Year. They set resolutions for them. But the Islamic New Year, when it comes, it doesn't bring any joy. It brings sorrow to us. But in that sorrow, there's joy for us, if you know what I'm saying. That we still anticipate for this month of Muharram, because we get to commemorate the greatest tragedy and the greatest sacrifice in the history of mankind. And for that reason, we look forward to it. And there's that joy in it for us, because we get to commemorate the shahadat of Ma'sumin. We get to commemorate the shahadat of third Imam. This month comes, and it should not just pass by. We get to an extent in the month of Ramadan, Allah gives us this tawfiq that we're able to abstain from things which are usually okay for us to do, which are usually halal. But there's this ability that God gives us in the months of Ramadan that you and I are able to abstain from those things, even when they are within our reach. Similar goes for the month of Muharram and Safar. There are many things that are normally done in our communities and our societies, not necessarily that they're okay. We get this ability to abstain from them. And so that's the power of this tragedy that we commemorate. That we put aside everything that we would be doing for our enjoyment because of the tragedy that took place during this month. So it should give us an opportunity to go ahead and ponder over our status, look at where we were, and make this resolution, as usually people of the world do, that when we come out of this month, we have done some sort of reform. We have done brought some sort of change amongst ourselves. So that this month doesn't just come by, we cry, we weep, we listen to majalis, and then we go home, back to being normal again. Because there's no Eid al-Fitr afterwards. Like in month of Ramadan, you were away from Fitrat, then you get to celebrate Eid al-Fitr, do you go back to being normal? Because it's normal to eat. But there's no Eid after, like that, like such, Eid al-Fitr. So you must continue this effort, this tawfiq that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to you. We're starting from a Sunday night. And I see, mashallah, I'm sure more people will come as the days progress. But I see, mashallah, house full, which is a very encouraging sign. A Sunday night, during football season, you being here, present on this Farsh Azza. Someone asked me, well, how do you translate the word tawfiq in English? So you can't really translate some words from Arabic to English. You just really can't do justice with translation. Yeah, but you can understand the word tawfiq. And I said, tonight, you could have been out there doing something else. But the moment you found out that there's Majlis Azza, you came to Farsh Azza, that's tawfiq. God gave you this tawfiq that you were able to look over all the other priorities and make this to be your top priority. That's called tawfiq. So alhamdulillah, you have achieved that. This was just the introduction. And inshallah, as we go forward, hopefully we can build upon it. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Salli ala. I've been given an hour at least. And I have ample amount of time in the next 12 nights, 11 nights. Including tonight, it'll be 12, I think, yes. So inshallah, we'll try and go in the details of things that I will bring in front of you. And our try would be to get acquainted with this book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It shouldn't just be a book with it which is used on certain occasions. This Quran, if it wasn't for the claim that it makes, that our Prophet will be saying on the day of judgment, Ya Rabbi, inna qawmi ittakhadhu hadha al-Qur'ana mahjura. O my Lord, indeed my nation, my people, abandoned this Quran. Prophet would be saying that. It's a prophecy, words that he will utter on the day of judgment. So therefore, there will be people who neglect this Quran, who become heedless of this Quran. And let's be honest with ourselves. How much close are we to this Quran? Do we get to recite it on a daily basis? Do we get to read the translation on a daily basis? Do we find time to do this thing? And today, nobody has any excuse. Why? You say, well, I don't have wudu, so I don't want to touch Quran without wudu. You have these gadgets in your hands, which has all the applications in the world. Go ahead and download an application of Quran as well. Read 5 ayat on a daily basis. And give thawab of it, and associate it, give nisbat to Imam of your time. And you will see how the acceptance of this recitation and the benefits will come towards you. Slowly and gradually, get close to and acquainted with this Quran. So I recited some verses from this Quran. Chapter 90, Surah Balad, first 4 ayat. I don't know how far I'll get to tonight, but inshallah I'll try and get as much as possible. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts this surah by saying, La uqsimu bihadal balad. When the brother started Surah Qiyamah, La uqsimu biyawm al-Qiyamah, that he was reciting this surah. So what a coincidence. But it was Surah Qiyamat. But the similar tone, that La uqsimu bihadal balad. All of you, even non-Arabs, know that the word La, that much Arabic we know, means no. Right? Even if you're not Arab, you know La means no. That much Arabic, all of us know. But it is ironic that you look up the translation, it will not be in the negative sense. When Allah says, La uqsimu bihadal balad, the translation will read, I swear by this city. You say, that's how we knew Arabic. Or I knew at least that much Arabic, that the word La means no. What happened to our basic Arabic? That Quran is saying, La uqsimu, instead of saying, I don't swear, it's saying, I swear by the city. Sometimes, in Arabic, certain words are idafi, zaid, extra. But you say, well, Quran is Kalami Hakim, book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shouldn't there be anything extra? It shouldn't be anything extra. Everything is measured and placed with precision. Then why this la is there? Shouldn't he just have said, "Uqsimu bihadha al-balad"? The reason that is used, and some of the translators have translated it in a way that they don't use the meaning, they don't misuse the meaning of la, and at the same time they have translated the ayat correctly. They translate as such: I do not need to swear by this city. What is he trying to tell us? When something is very obvious to you, you don't really need to, swear by it. For example, it's daytime. I don't really need to swear or take an oath that it is a daytime because it's so obvious. I don't need to tell you that this is how it is. I don't need to have to do this because it's how it is. That's what Allah is saying. La uqsimu bihazal balad. That indeed I swear by this city. Now, first of all, the question is, why does God need to swear? Why does he need to make an oath? When you and I take an oath, well, the reason is because people don't believe us. In order to prove our point, we say, uqsimu billahi. Or if you're Arab, you'll say, wallahi, wallahi, wallahi. Every sentence will contain wallahi. Even if you're joking, you'll say wallahi. Because that's just something which is habit. Even if you don't need to prove something, you'll still say wallahi. And that's how they speak. So when you say that, that means you're trying to prove a point. This brother doesn't listen to me. He's not believing in what I'm saying. So I say, by God. And if you come from Persian background, if you're from Iran, then the biggest oath is Abul Fadl. Bi Abul Fadl. If you say Hazrat Abul Fadl's name, there's no oath bigger than that. Not even Bi Khuda. Because Abul Fadl, Abul Fadl. But nonetheless, you swear and you take an oath. Why? So that you can get your point across. People will pay attention to what you're saying. Allah does it for multiple reasons. He doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. What he says is muhkam, without any issues. But Allah does it to emphasize on something. One. Second reason Allah does it, because Prophet will be reciting this ayah for the people. And at that time when Prophet was reciting these ayat for the people were what? They were bragging about their poetry and prose in Arabic language. To bring something as a masterpiece in front of them and start with the word which will grab their attention. Love. Focus. Okay, what's he saying? When he had the attention of the people, he grabbed their attention. Then he went about saying the matter which was more important. So uses qasam in Arabic, in Quran rather. And when you look at the things by which God has taken an oath, you'll be surprised that we find at one place that he's swearing by this city, which later on comes about to be the city of Makkatul Mukarramah. It is worth swearing. It is a city which is the central place of Islamic Ummah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes an oath by different things in Quran. For example, different times that exist. Just to emphasize the importance of time. Don't squander and waste your time. It starts by saying wal fajr, by the dawn. Was subh, by the morning. Wad duha, by the midday and its brightness. Wan nahar, by the daytime. Wal asr, by the time of asr. Wal layl, by the night time. Every single time that exists, God has taken an oath by. Why? Because time is essence, is of the most importance. Don't waste your time. Use your time properly. Utilize it, the fursa that you have in your hands. Moving forward. The second ayah says, وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. The reason behind me swearing by this city, O Prophet, is not because there's my house in it, Khana Kaaba. There's Hajar Aswad in it. There's Zamzam in it. There's Safa and Marwa in it. There's Masha'irul Haram in it. No, that's not the reason why I'm taking an oath by this city. وَأَنْتَ حِلٌّ بِهَذَا الْبَلَدِ. The reason I'm taking an oath is because you are living in this city. The mere wujud, your existence in the city of Mecca enables me that I should go ahead and swear by this city. That's the importance of the city, because Prophet is in there. In the third ayah, وَوَالِدٍ وَمَا وَلَدٍ. I swear by a father and a son. Usually Mufassirin mention Hazrat Ibrahim and Hazrat Ismail alayhim as-salatu was-salam with the sacrifice that they had given. And talk about, which says, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي كَبَدٍ. That indeed we created insan in much pain and difficulty. Not that it was difficult for God to create him, but he created insan to face trials and tribulations. That is our destiny. That is something which is written in our fate, so you shouldn't run away from it. If there are adversities coming your way, don't run away from it. Embrace it. Because nobody is spared from these adversities. No one. You look at the hadith of our Prophet, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Prophet said, Innal bala'a lil zalimi adabun. وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِ امْتِحَانٌ وَلِلْأَنْبِيَاءِ دَرَجَةٌ وَلِلْأَوْلِيَاءِ كَرَامَةٌ. That bala, not the Urdu bala, bala in Farsi or bala in Arabic, which comes from the word mubtala, being tested or being put to trial. Bala in Urdu is something else. Go ask the brothers. He's saying bala is the bala of upon which Hazrat Ibrahim was tested. وَإِذِ ابْتَلَى إِبْرَاهِيمَ رَبُّهُ بِكَلِمَاتٍ. Bala literally translates as trials and tribulations in Arabic. He said, إِنَّ الْبَلَاءَ لِلظَّالِمِ عَذَبٌ. Allah tests even the zalim, the tyrant, the oppressor. Why does he need to test the tyrant and the oppressor? لِلْأَدَبِ. In order to go ahead and teach him a lesson. So the zulm that he has done, he pays a price for it and he learns something from it. وَلِلْمُؤْمِنِ امْتِحَانٌ. Allah tests the mu'min as well. The reason behind testing a mu'min is because it's imtihan for him. It's a trial for him to go through whether he's grateful or ungrateful. Imma shakiran aw imma kafura. Whether he's grateful or ungrateful. That is the purpose behind testing a mu'min. So if you and I are mu'mineen, then we will be grateful, whether at ease or at adversity. If we are mu'mineen, if Allah tests us, فِي السَّرَّاءِ وَالضَّرَّاءِ will be the same. And it's not just mu'mineen that God tests. You go further, even anbiya. The hadith says, وَلِلْأَنْبِيَاءِ دَرَجَةٌ. When Allah puts Nabi to a test, why is he testing a Nabi? He wants to go ahead and elevate the status of Anbiya. That's why you see there are different ranks amongst the Anbiya. Some of them are just Nabi. Nabi means the one who gives khabar, the one who gives the news. Some of them alongside being Nabi are what? Rasul. Right? They bring Shariat with them. A new doctrine with them. Some of them, alongside being Nabi and Rasul, are what? Ulul Azm. And amongst those Ulul Azm, there's only one Khatimul Anbiya, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Salli ala Muhammad wa. So someone might question, we understand why God tests us. And that's a misunderstanding on our part. If I can just get this message across. That if we see in the world someone battered around, facing difficulty after difficulty after difficulty in our community, we feel pity for that person. We say how unfortunate this person is that first he lost his, for example, wife, first he lost his parents, then he lost his house, then he lost his job. Everything is lost. We feel pity for that person. How unfortunate. Maybe it has to do with some of his, unfortunately, previous sins. Right away, we start associating sins with the, things that people are going through. And that is not true. If that was the case, what would you do with all the difficulties Anbiya are facing? They are masoom. They're infallible. They don't commit mistakes. Then why are they facing such difficulties in their life? I'll give you one example. I don't want to prolong tonight so that people don't show up tomorrow. So I'll keep it tight. We see the example of Hazrat Nuh alayhi salatu wassalam amongst Ulul Azm Nabi. Nuh, those who are Arab know the word Nuh means that what we need, Noha. So it's not the Shias who recite Noha. Hazrat Nuh started reciting Noha. Way back then. We just continuing the seerat of Hazrat Nuh by reciting this Noha. He's reciting Noha. He used to recite Noha, and that's why his name became Nuh. And that's not his real name. In chapter Nuh, he's literally reciting his Noha. What is Noha? Latmiya, right? That you recite the musibah. Hazrat Nuh is reciting his own musibah. He's saying, oh Allah, I preach these people laylan wa nahara. Oh, these prophets, they didn't have nothing to do. That's why they were doing so much ibadat. No. Hazrat Nuh is saying, oh Allah, I took care of the preaching laylan wa nahara. Day and night. There wasn't a time that I wasn't preaching. But what did I get in return? These people, جَعَلَهُمْ أَصَابِعًا فِي آذَانِهِمْ. They will put their fingers in their ears. Imagine I'm speaking to you. You don't like what I'm saying. You put your hand, take your fingers and you put your ears. If disrespectful. If you don't like it, just bear with me for another 15, 20 minutes. Get up and walk away. But to put your fingers in your ears, it's just utmost disrespect. And that too, Nabi of Allah. Or they will put a chadar or a veil or a cloak over their head. Imagine I'm speaking to you, you cover your head. Women cover, that's one thing. Men go ahead and cover their head. Again, disrespectful. If that wasn't enough, they would ridicule and mock Hazrat Nuh for what he was saying. And they would hurl things towards him, stones, to the extent that he was wounded every single day. It would only that he would come back home, that Allah would send angels to go ahead and place their wings on the body of Hazrat Nuh, and his wounds would be healed overnight. He'll go back to preaching again the next day. How amazing it is that there's a Nabi. When he gets wounded, it requires an angel to come and heal his wounds. There were angels, when they got wounded, they would go and rub their wings to the cradle of Imam Hussein, and they would be given shafaat. You know I'm referring towards fitrus. So that's the calamity that Hazrat Nuh is in. But he still continues to preach. Does that mean Hazrat Nuh committed, na'udhu billah, some sort of sin? That he's been dealt this way? Forget all people, our own prophet. The masa'ib that our own prophet faces. Does that mean there are any past sins, na'udhu billah, that he's been dealt? Well, some mufassirin will say, yeah. Surah Fat says, Ma taqaddama min dambika wa ma ta'akhar. Your previous and your future sins, O Prophet, we have forgiven. But that's not the case. Prophet is Masoom. But look at the musibat. Born an orphan, so he can realize how an orphan is. So much that we have heard in regards to orphans in our Islamic history, Islamic ahadith, that taking care of an orphan, the reward that is associated with it. We can't even imagine the magnitude of it. You know, there's a shortcut for everything. I don't like to share shortcuts, but there's a shortcut for everything. You know the shortcut for paradise that Prophet mentions? He said, do kifalat of a yatim. Take care of a yatim, an orphan. When you do the kifalat of a yatim, an orphan, paradise is guaranteed. Prophet said, Ana wa kafilul yatim kahatayn fil jannah. Kahatayn. He showed his two fingers. He said, me and the one who takes care and does the kifalat, does the takafful of a yatim, an orphan, are like this in paradise. And he pointed towards his two fingers. They were joined together. That means we'll be next to one another in paradise. The one who takes care of a yatim. So I take care of yatim. I've given so much money towards taking care of the shelter of yatim, providing food for them, providing clothes for them. Here we're talking about taking care of a yatim in a way that which he or she is suffering, loss of a fatherly, motherly figure. How many of us have ever sat down with a yatim to make them forget that they are yatim for a second? Kind of like what Imam Hussein did to the daughter of Muslim ibn Aqil. We'll recite his masaib, inshallah, in the coming days. That she said, you're treating me like an orphan. Imam said, yes, you have become an orphan. Prophet said, Ana wa kafilul yatim kahatayn fil jannah. This who takes care of an ordinary yatim. Just imagine if that person took care of a yatim in the form of Rasulullah himself. Just imagine the status of that person. Ma salli ala Abu Talib. Abu Talib took care of the Prophet when he was yatim. Prophet says, Ana wa kafilul yatim kahatayn fil jannah. People still think Abu Talib left this world kafir, because he did not proclaim or announce that he was Muslim by his tongue. When is it appropriate? When is it necessary for one to announce that I'm Muslim? How many of us have recited Shahadatain? None of us. We're born Muslim. We don't need to recite Shahadatain. So that means, if you haven't heard, that means I'm a kafir. I'm digressing from my topic. So we see here that prophets face difficulties as well. Prophet was born a yatim. Not too long after, he loses his grandfather. Then he loses two of his main supporters, Hazrat Khadija salamullah alayha and Hazrat Abu Talib salamullah alayhi. And he marks it to be Amul Huzn. You know, people say, you Shias go all the way, you exaggerate when it comes to commemoration of Imam Hussein. I said, what do you mean? He said, Imam Hussein died one day, the day of his shahadat, which is the day of Ashur. Look at the seerah of your Masumeen. They used to commemorate just that one day. They would hold majalis. They would invite the poets to come and recite the majlis and the masaib, and they would weep. Well, just the day of Ashur. You start from the beginning of the month of Muharram. You keep yourself occupied the whole entire month. Then you move to the month of Safar until the Arba'in of Imam takes place. Then you move into the month of Rabiul Awwal. 2.5 months. That's just exaggerating. That's just going overboard. You just need 1 day or maybe 10 days. First 10. Okay, we're with you with 10 days. We'll even come and join you in the 10 days. You go overboard with your 2.5 months. You said Imam Hussein's tragedy you understand. And the companions with him and the people that were with him, how mercilessly they were butchered and killed. To the extent that Imam Rada says what? He said, Yabna Shabib, in kunta bakiyan ala shay'in fabki lil Hussein. Oh, son of Shabib, if you were to weep for someone, then weep for Hussein. فَإِنَّهُ ذُبِحَ كَمَا يُذْبَحُ الْكَبْشِ. Because he was slaughtered like how the sheep and goat are slaughtered. وَقُتِلَ مَعَهُ ثَمَانِيَةَ عَشَرَ مِنْ أَهْلِ بَيْتِهِ مَا شَبِيهُونَ. And with him were 18 individuals from his family that were martyred, that there was no resemblance of anyone on the face of the earth with those 18, let alone Hussein ibn Ali. And if we commemorate them for 2 months, it's too much. Imam Hussein died as a shaheed, while Prophet's sunnat is that when Hazrat Khadija left this world, natural death. When Hazrat Abu Talib left this world, natural death. He doesn't say, weep and cry for 1 day, 1 week, 1 month. He said, Amul Huzn. The whole year is the year of grief and sorrow. When Abu Talib and Khadija salamullah alayh, they leave this world, Prophet considers that to be Amul Huzn. Then when Hussein and his tragedy of such magnitude, I think 2 months is even less. That's why that saying, which is, I don't know if it's a hadith or not, but it is well known, Kullu yawmin ashura wa kullu ardin Karbala. That every land is Karbala and every day is Ashura. Every single day is Ashura. So the Prophet did face enormous amounts of difficulty. But what did that have to do with his previous life? Nothing. It was just a test from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you see someone suffering in the community, don't always jump to the guns and conclusion by saying, oh, because of the previous mistakes and sins. No, if you want to understand this properly, Allah only troubles those whom He thinks that are capable of taking that difficulty. La yukallifu Allahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah does not put the taklif or to take the burden. So if, according to this criteria, the one who suffers the most amount of difficulty is the most wretched and is most unfortunate in the world, then our Prophet would be the one. But that's not the criteria. Here we understand the one who's given the most amount of difficulty and who embraces that difficulty is the beloved of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you and I should not shy away from difficulties coming towards us. We should not, let these difficulties make us, commit wrong or lapses or shortcomings from that. Every single person goes through difficulty. You look at American lifestyle, American dream that they call, the celebrities and the players, they are living the American life. You and I are just, feeding into what they want. But that's the life, we all aspire. Now, well, hopefully we don't, I'm just saying. That's the life, that's the American dream. Even them, they have difficulties. What happens? It leads to the difficulties that they're unable to even live entire life. They die at a very young age. There are lapses in their life. In fact, here we understand the more you have, the more difficulties you have. The less you have, the lesser difficulties you have. So I wouldn't be the one calling for more, because the more there is, the more difficulty there will be. Allah tests every single person. My discussion was threefold. 1, who does He test? 2, what does He test us by? And 3, why does He test us? I don't know if I'll be able to get to all 3 of them, but we'll just stick with the first one, that who does He test? He's testing every single person. He doesn't spare anyone from it, so don't run away from it. Rich, the poor, everyone is part of it. He tests you with your children. He tests you with your wealth. And I'll prove it through an ayat of Quran. Surah Baqarah, verse number 155. وَلَا نَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوءِ وَالنَّقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ. 5 things are mentioned here. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed, wala nabluwannakum. There's no doubt about it. Again, the same word bala is being used. Wala nabluwannakum. Most surely we will test you by what? بخوف والجوع, with fear and with hunger. وَنَقْسٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ, by shortening your wealth. وَالْأَنفُسِ, your lives. وَالثَّمَرَاتِ, the fruit of your life, your children. But he says something, وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ, give glad tidings to those who are patient. الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ, those who face musibah, قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ. Don't be surprised if things come towards you, because everything has a purpose behind it. There's nothing in vain that Allah is afflicting you with. There's a good reason behind it. It's just that you and I do not see that good reason right away. We fail to see the picture right away, but there's a reason behind it. Later on in the life, we understand, okay, yeah. There's a story of a king. And obviously, like all kings, he had a wazir, his advisor. And every time the king would suffer something, the wazir would tell him, oh, there's something good in it. Inshallah, there's khair in it for you. There's a purpose behind it. And the king would, will listen to him. One day the king was, slicing some apples, and he cut his finger. Started bleeding. It was a big cut. What do you think the wazir said? There's something good in it for you. That you cut your hand. Don't worry about it. Inshallah khair. He said, what khair? I just cut myself and I'm bleeding. You saying there's khair? Throw this guy into the prison. So he throws his wazir into the prison. Later, this king, he said, let's go for hunting. He goes out hunting. He's with his guards. While hunting, he was on his horse. He went so far away hunting an animal that he was left behind, that he was far away from his guards. And he ended up coming to a place which was unknown to him. He saw at that place the people were getting ready to give sacrifice. And as soon as they see this handsome, beautiful, decorated king, they said, our gods must have sent this thing or this person for sacrifice. So they capture him. They place him on a salib, if you want to call it. They're about to sacrifice. One of the conditions of the animal that we sacrifice in Eid al-Adha is what? That there shouldn't be any defects in them, right? The animal should be without any defects. It's just a normal procedure. As soon as the guy who was supposed to give sacrifice of this king for the gods, he says his hand is cut. And then we can't sacrifice something which is defected for our gods. Let this person go. So let him go. He runs back. Eventually he makes it back to his kingdom. He comes back and he says, free that wazir of mine. They free the wazir. Wazir comes out. He said, you were right. Everything happens for a purpose. When that day I cut my hand, I was so furious. You said there's a reason behind it. I could not understand. But today I did, because that spared my life. But tell me, I threw you into the prison. What was the purpose behind that? What was the good behind that? He said, if you did not throw me into the prison, I would have accompanied you. And if I had accompanied you, if they spared your life, they would have killed me. So that was good for both of us. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. So from this story, we can understand that there's definitely something in these difficulties that we face in it for us. God tests us. He tests us with our children. He tests people if they have children. He tests people if they don't have children. He said, well, I understand if they have children. I understand Allah is testing that couple, that parent, or they're not parents because they don't have any children. That I understand. But how is He testing those who is given children? No, that's also a test. Ask those who have children. Ask those who have raised children. Allah tests you when He gives you one child. He tests you when He gives you two children. He tests you when He gives you a daughter. He tests you when He gives you a son. He tests you when He gives you only sons. He tests you when He only gives you daughters. There's tests for every single person there. We just fail to understand it right away. I'll bring you towards the close, and inshallah, we'll go towards what does Allah test us by, and why does He need to test, inshallah, in the tomorrow's lecture. So we'll save some for tomorrow. That we come to Ayyam Azah to commemorate such trial and tribulation. You know, if someone said, if it wasn't for Karbala, you and I would never be able to go through our pains. Why? Because any difficulty that you and I face cannot be compared with what happened in Karbala. When we look at the tragedy of Imam Hussein, we forget our own tragedy. When we look at a young death in our community, we recite the Masaib of Ali Akbar, we forget our musibah. When we have a loss in our community of a mother, we recite the Masaib of Janab Zainab, Kulthum, Janab Sayyidah, and we forget our Masaib, our musibat. No matter how big, difficult musibat that might be. But you know how this whole musibah began? I want to take you back in the pages of history that in the 60th year after Hijrah, when Muawiyah, Lanatullah alayhi, left this world, and he appointed his son to be the successor. First thing he does, he sends a message to the governor of Medina, Walid ibn Utbah, that get the allegiance from everyone, especially from these people, Abdullah ibn Zubair, Abdullah ibn Umar, and Hussein ibn Ali. And if they refuse, kill him on the spot. Walid has a very daunting task. He calls upon Imam Hussein. Marwan is also there. He summons Imam Hussein. Imam knows why he has been summoned. He tells him, I just received a letter from Yazid. Muawiyah has left this world and chosen Yazid to be his successor, and Yazid is demanding allegiance from you. Imam says, La ubayi mithali mithalah. Someone like me does not do bay'ah to someone like Yazid. Maut is better than doing bay'ah to Yazid. And things of that sort Imam had said. Imam said all of this, and Imam was leaving. Walid has a very difficult task. But we see what Walid did. Marwan said, you should kill Hussein on the spot according to the letter. He said, Dhaka ladamun. This is the blood which I'm there to masoon, which I'm there to hifazat, do hifazat of. You want me to shed this blood? And in fact, when you look at the pages of history, when Abdullah ibn Zubair fled Medina, Walid sent a force after him to capture him, although they didn't. But when he found out that Hussein ibn Ali is leaving Medina, he did not send anyone after him. He does this. Imam comes back home. And Imam now wants to bid farewell to the city of Medina. The city in which he has grown up. The city which is the city of his grandfather Rasulullah. The city in which his mother is buried. The city in which his khutbah. He says when he is leaving, Inni lam akhruj ashiran wala batira wala mufsidan wala zalima innama kharajtu li talab al-islah fi ummat jaddi. That my rise is not to cause corruption, chaos, fitna, and tyranny and oppression. My rise is only to seek reform in my community. Ummat jaddi. Uridu an amura bil maruf. I only want to perform amr bil maruf. Wa anha anil munkar. And nahi anil munkar. Wa asira bi sirat jaddi wa abi. And I want to be able to follow the seerah of my grandfather and my father. How difficult it is for you to leave your hometown. Imagine you grow up in a city, you have everything and everyone over there, and now you're forced to leave that city. How difficult it is for you. Similar is the case with Imam Hussein as he's forced out of the city of Madinatul Munawwara. Abdullah ibn Sinan, the narrator, says that Imam Hussein comes back home and he orders evacuation and movement. He said, I don't want to threaten the sanctity of the city of Madinatul Munawwara. Oh Hussein, do you not know that a couple of years after the event of Karbala, Waqi Harra will take place in the same city of Medina? When the city will be desecrated completely, the mosque of Rasulullah will become a stable of animals, and the hurmat of the people will be threatened. Imam ﷺ sees this even in the 61st year or the 60th year after Hijrah. That's why he orders his family to, let's get ready and we leave. Abdullah ibn Sinan, the whole narrator, he says that I saw that Hussein was sitting on a chair, and one by one a lady was being brought, and they were being carried into the carriages that were ready and mounted on top of the camels. He said, I saw a young boy, Qasim, grab a hold of a lady's hand and bring her to the carriage. I said, who is this? He said, this is Qasim, and that's his mother, widow of Hassan ibn Ali, Farwa. Then I saw another lady come out. But this time Qasim was also accompanied by who? He said, do not recognize, this is saw another scene where I saw Ali Akbar join hands with Qasim, and then Abbas also comes in. One is holding on to the veil, the other one is holding on to the shoes, the third one is grabbing the hand, mounting this lady onto the carriage. He said, who is this lady? He said, do you not recognize this is Kulthum? He said, Abdullah said, then I saw a scene when a lady came out of the house. Hussein, who was watching all of this from far away, even Hussein gets up from his place. He accompanies Abbas, Qasim, Ali Akbar, and now Hussein also joins hands. I said, who is this lady that for whom Hussein has gotten up? He said, you do not recognize. That is the elder daughter of Ali and Batul, Zainab Kubra, salamullahi alayha. Ajrukum Allah. May Allah give you no grief and sorrow except the grief of Ali Muhammad. Just a few more words and I will end. Imam stands up himself to accompany Zainab, and that is the only thing Zainab remembers. It comes the day of Ashur. In fact, the day after Ashur, when they are ordered city of Kufa, they said, let's align them, let's no more carriages. These are without any carriages. They said, we will mount ourselves. Zainab did not let any of these enemies touch the ladies. Zainab goes. She helps Farwa mount a horse. This is 11th of Muharram. That was the day when Imam Hussein's caravan left the city of Medina, which was 28th of Rajab. And come the 11th of Muharram, the situation is that Hussein is no longer there. Zainab helps Farwa. She helps Layla. She helps Kulthum. And then even she helps Bimar, Imam Zain al-Abidin. Ajrukum Allah. But when the turn of Zainab came, she even helped Fidda. But when the turn of Zainab came, she looks towards Furad. She looks towards the other side. She faces the city of Najaf, and she said, there's nobody to help Zainab mount the horse. ألا لعنة الله القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. Oh Allah, we ask that we have committed a lot of sins. Please forgive our sins. Oh Allah, we ask you to give us the strength and the ability to follow the commands and the teachings of Quran. O Allah, give us the strength and the ability to follow the commands of Masumeen alayhimus salatu wassalam. O Allah, give us the ability to spiritually go through these days of Ayyam Azah. O Allah, we ask you to hasten the zuhur of our awaited Imam and make us amongst the helpers and the soldiers of Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Matam Hussein.